everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's edition of the Appraisal Buzzcast. I'm Jim Morrison, and our host, Hal Humphreys, is with me as always. Hey, Hal, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Jim. How are you today?
I'm doing great as well. We have an exciting episode today. We're speaking with Jeff Allen, the president of CubiCasa. Let me bring him in. Hey, Jeff, how are you?
Good. Hi, guys. Thanks for having me today.
Hi, Jeff. Thanks for being here. I'm coming to you live from the Buffalo River in Tennessee. So I'm not in the studio today. The audio quality may not be what folks are used to, but I think it sounds okay. And Jeff, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. I got to say, I've been a longtime fan of CubiCasa and the product and what you guys do. For the folks that are listening that don't know about you, you've been integral in this part of the valuation industry for a while, but tell our listeners a little bit about who Jeff Allen is.
Sure. Well, thank you again for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I've been in the valuation or real estate space in one form or another my entire career, and in a variety of different roles. Been fortunate to work for some really great companies. Most recently, been working for Clear Capital. Before I was at CubiCasa, so at Clear Capital, I ran the Innovation Lab. And part of what we were doing at Clear Capital at the Innovation Lab was figuring out ways to get more reliable, systematically generated property data from property data collection to help support appraisal modernization initiatives that were underway in the industry and now are starting to obviously take shape with the GSEs. So as part of that work at Clear Capital in the Innovation Labs is we're testing out different technologies and solutions to find ways to get more reliable data from the property. And we found CubiCasa in the course of doing that research. We just fell in love with the technology right away. The fact that you could just with the smartphone in your pocket, scan a house in 5 to 10 minutes and get back a reliable floor plan and square footage calculations. That was like manna from heaven in a lot of ways. So when we found the company and fell in love with technology, started using it, that ultimately Clear Capital made the decision to purchase CubiCasa and invest in it, in its growth, and help it become a bigger impact on the industry. And I was honored to be asked to run CubiCasa when we made that acquisition. So I've been running CubiCasa now for the last coming up on 3 years, and really having a very fun time doing it.
Awesome. Well, good. Thanks for the introduction. Let's do this. I'm going to take a real quick break. We're going to hear from one of our sponsors, and we will be right back.
The Dictionary of Real Estate Appraisal, 7th edition, is a landmark text that reflects the depth and breadth of appraisal knowledge. Each entry, definition, and reference has been painstakingly researched and designed to reflect an expert understanding of issues that currently impact the profession. The new dictionary is an essential authoritative resource for all appraisers. The dictionary is divided into 2 sections, an alphabetical listing of terms directly related to real estate appraisal, and an addendum with topical glossaries and compilations of terms used by related real estate professionals. Find it at appraisalinstitute.org/dictionary7.
Welcome back, everybody. You're listening to the Appraisal Buzz. I'm Hal Humphreys, your host. I'm joined today by Jeff Allen. Jeff runs CubiCasa. And, Jeff, you gave a really nice kind of broad brush introduction of who Jeff Allen is. I mentioned in the first segment, I'm a fan of the product. When I first found out about CubiCasa, I'll be honest with you, I found it to be a dubious proposition. You can take your phone, walk around the house, come out. So me being me, I tested it and I tested it and I tested it. I was just blown away. I grew up in the appraisal world. My first mentor years ago, I remember specifically going with him to Atlanta, Georgia to measure an apartment complex. And instead of measuring the entire complex, we selected, a sample of each unit type. And there were 15 unit types. And we hand measured every one of the things and then went back to the office. And I remember sitting there with graph paper, like draft table size graph paper and a scale and a pencil and drawing the floor plans and putting the windows in and putting the door swings in and all that stuff. And it took hours. And the first time I used CubiCasa, I was like, this is insane. It's so much of a prettier product printout than what I could ever do drawing my own thing. There have been a lot of changes coming to the valuation space. CubiCasa has been one of the drivers of this. What are some things you see that are going to be changes going on from here forward in the valuation space?
Yeah, great question. So, I mean, I think the industry is appropriately being really thoughtful and careful about rolling out appraisal modernization in a kind of slow pace where everyone can get used to it, and make sure that we have a really high quality of valuation still being performed. So I still think it's going to be gradual, that things like the Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac hybrid programs will roll out, that the kind of property data collection things will roll out, and I think that's a good thing. I think it's good that it's done in a way where everybody has time, to really perfect it and get used to it. But I think it's coming. Like, I think the idea that we're always going to have a full traditional appraisal performed on every loan is like, I think we are now 5 or 6 years into testing these programs, and the GSEs have now been publicly saying, as has FHFA, like, hey, we're really comfortable with the quality of valuation we're getting. That we've proven that the method of sending someone else to the property who's not the appraiser can be successful, and that appraisers can rely on the data that comes out of it, and the GSEs can rely on the data that comes out of it. So I think you're going to see that continue. And ultimately, I know not every appraiser will agree with me on this, but I think that can be a really positive thing for the appraiser. Having been on the front lines of it with Clear Capital, testing these approaches, when we found appraisers who really wanted to commit to doing just desktop work and hybrid work, they really got very efficient with it. They got really good at feeling like they could just do that task, and it ended up being really beneficial to folks who felt like maybe they were now at an age where they didn't want to go around trudging through the hedges and measuring with their tape. In the humid Dallas summer or the frigid Minneapolis winter, like, I don't want to go pull tape. Let somebody else do that. So I really think that that's going to be where it continues to go, is more of that, more lenders adopting it. And ultimately, that's where it's really important that tools like CubiCasa, but we're not the only tool out there, but tools like CubiCasa are reliable. That the data that comes out of it is robust, is consistently calculated, and that's really our continued focus.
It occurs to me, as much as I enjoyed measuring houses and sitting down with the scale and graph paper and doing the drawings, and I got pretty good at that. But at the end of the day, that's not what my clients were paying me for. They weren't paying me for a pretty exhibit inside of an appraisal report. They were paying me to do the analysis, to study the market and give them a real indication of what I thought the property was worth. And, the first time I did a mobile appraisal where I went out with total for mobile and filled out my form, on site, it took me an excessively long period of time to get the first one done. But I committed to doing 10 inspections using that technology. I did the same thing with CubiCasa. So I'm going to make my floor plans using this. I still to this day sometimes double check measurements, but I'm getting a lot more comfortable with that. Like I say I still to this day, I don't so much anymore because I trust the tech.
Nice.
But it just takes some time to get into it and be comfortable using the tech. But at the end of the day, I, as an appraiser, am hired by my clients to analyze the market and give them my opinion of what the property is worth. And I will use any tool I can to make the end product better, to make the data collection and the data verification more reliable. And I see that is one of the things that CubiCasa does, that it allows me to get consistent results while I'm doing my inspections. So, I think there are a lot of changes coming down the pike for appraisers. Let's do this. Let's take a real quick break. Let's hear from one of our sponsors, and we'll come back and we'll talk about the changes coming.
LIA Administrators and Insurance Services, serving valuation professionals since 1978. We provide E&O insurance with a commitment to superior customer service, outstanding liability education, and unmatched claim defense, benefiting over 10,000 real estate professionals nationwide. Explore our exclusive appraiser liability education by Peter Christensen and cost-effective seminars designed to foster your growth. Our underwriters, with an average of 26 years of experience each, are dedicated to supporting appraisers. Visit liability.com to discover how LIA can safeguard your business.
Welcome back, everybody. You're listening to the Appraisal Buzzcast. I'm Hal Humphreys, your host. I've got Jeff Allen with me today from CubiCasa. Jeff, thank you for taking the time to be here today. Before we went to the commercial break, I was prattling on about how much I love CubiCasa. I want to be really clear. I don't just brag on people because they're on the show. I've had people on that I just don't like their product. I do like yours. There are products that I don't like, and I don't mind saying this is just a bad product or I don't like it or whatever. We left the last segment talking about changes coming down the pike. There's some things that come to my mind: the new UAD and the new Uniform Residential Report Builder. It's not going to be a form. It's going to be a dynamic report builder. What do you see tech-wise in the future that will help appraisers with that process?
So, yeah, great question. I think, we're staying close to the UAD changes for sure, because it's going to impact a lot of appraisers and our users. I think you hit on the major impact is that data collection is going to be very conditional now. What I mean by that is if you identify that a certain condition or feature exists at the property, now there's going to be specific requirements that are going to be created dynamically to have that documented, right? And I think the result of that is going to be higher quality reports. I truly believe that, because it is going to be able to be collected in a more consistent way. You're going to make sure that if a certain feature exists, you get it documented and you get some comments on it, for example. But I think the impact of that on data collection is going to have to become more mobile. The day of bringing your clipboard with a pen and a paper, probably gone, right? Because when you identify that a certain condition or feature exists, if you didn't take a photo of it while you were there, you can't submit the report until you get that photo, right? And so I think that's where mobile data collection workflow is going to become a must. And I think we're not going to solve that whole problem. Our focus is on the scanning and the floor plan and the GLA, but certainly I think there's a lot of companies who are doing a lot of work right now to get appraisers ready for that.
How long do you think the timeline is before most appraisers are mostly mobile?
It's a great question. I think it really depends on UAD and how quickly lenders can adopt it. Appraisers are not going to choose to adopt UAD. Would you agree with that?
Look, nobody wants to change a process they've been doing for a long time. They're comfortable doing the process, and a new process requires a learning curve. So, of course, they're not going to choose to do it. But I think there's a chance that it could be a learning curve, yes. But, I think you hit on the key thing. The lenders have to adopt it. If they don't push it, the appraisers aren't going to do it.
Right. And I think we went through this one other time, like UAD, the last round was probably 2011 when they kind of moved to that. And it was a similar thing where I think everybody resisted the change as long as they could. But then at a certain point, an edict came down from the GSEs, and it's like, it's happening by this date or we're not buying your loans. Right. And we'll get to that point with the next round. The question is when that will happen.
Yeah, and I think that's, me being out here in appraiser land, I get the pushback from the broader appraisal community when somebody makes an edict. It's like, really, we're being told what to do again? I totally understand that. I will say this, and Jeff, tell me your thoughts on this. This is not on our talking points, but I'm curious about it. I hear appraisers say quite frequently, I'm being paid the same for an appraisal today that I was 10, 15, 20 years ago. Well, I mean, I don't know if that's true. I don't find that to be true personally. Um, but here's the thing 20, 25 years ago, I had to go to the courthouse. I had to go photocopy a deed. I had to go photocopy the tax records. I had to pay the registrar's office and the tax assessor's office for those photocopies. I had to then come back to the office, put all that in my file. Then I had to go take photographs with a film camera and take that film down to be processed and wait a couple of days for that to come back.
Right.
I mean, I go out in the field with this and I take my photos. They're in the report. I do my measurement with this. It's in the report. It's all done. So there are some efficiencies that we gain through using technology. And I think if appraisers can embrace the idea of, oh, this tool makes me more efficient, it makes me a little bit faster,
Right.
then if you can do at Clear Capital, people working on a desktop or hybrid appraisal. Let's go with hybrid because there's actual data coming in from a data collector. How many appraisals could someone do in a day doing hybrid products 3-4 years ago?
Right. Not a lot.
But they
But
could
today,
do more.
yeah,
But they could do more at that point in a hybrid format than a single appraiser out there measuring houses come back writing the reports themselves.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, unequivocally, the data confirms that.
Right. I know there's a lot of fear out there in the appraisal community. I know there's a lot of trepidation about where the industry is going. I don't think it's quite that bad. The sky is not falling. I think we're just getting our head around how to use new tools, getting our head around how to use technology. And I'll say this, and Jeff, I'll elicit a response from you one more time. If people my age, and I am the avatar for this industry, I'm white, I'm male, and I'm 55 years old. Like if you crafted an avatar, I would be it.
Yeah.
If people my age and older can't get their head around this, do you think there's a new crop of appraisers coming up through ADI and Perea and stuff like that will be able to get their head around it?
I do. I'm encouraged by what I see from those groups. Like, I think there's been a lot of investment and time that's gone into ADI. I think the Perea changes. It seems like there's a lot of energy and activity around that with different companies that are working on it. So I'm encouraged. I'm still very nervous about the level of requirements that is needed to get through the trainee process and the credentialism that's involved there. Until we break through that, it's going to be tough. There is a labor shortage in the U.S. generally. Like, the unemployment rate is still around 3%, 3.5%.
It's awfully low.
Yeah, so there's plenty of jobs out there for somebody getting out of college right now that pay good. And so if you're telling me now I can't earn really anything for 2 years because I have to go do this process, no amount of ADI or Perea is going to fix all that. It's just economics. So I think those are great initiatives, and I think they're having a positive impact for sure. I'm not saying they're not, but I think to really meet the demand, we need to go even farther. That's my opinion.
Okay, very good.
That is a personal opinion. I do not represent Clear Capital on this. I'm just sharing my opinion.
That is Jeff's opinion. He doesn't represent my view on that topic. I'm just kidding. Look, the AQB, I know right now, is going through some very serious processes and meetings and reviews of the qualifications criteria, trying to see if there's anything they can do to kind of dial that into a more reasonable way. Jeff, again, thank you for taking the time to be here. We really appreciate you taking part of your day and spending it with us and sharing your knowledge with the appraisal community.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Hal. It was great to talk to you.
Awesome. Jim Morrison, do we have anything else we need to cover today? We don't have an anonymous appraiser question today, do we?
No, we don't have an anonymous appraiser question today. Jeff, you're off the hook on that. If any of our listeners have a question they want to get for a future expert, reach out to us at comments@appraisalbuzz.com. Jeff, thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
And if we have nothing else, on behalf of Jim Morrison and Jeff Allen, I'm Hal Humphreys, and that is your Appraisal Buzzcast for this week.